Hello, and welcome to the Wildfire PR podcast, where we'll be talking about all things tech PR. This month, Wildfire launched its guide to almost everything you need to know about GEO. So today I'm going to be talking to Luke Proctor, Wildfire's AI lead, to find out a bit more about AI search and what GEO is and why we should all be talking about it. So, hi Luke.
Hello.
Various questions for you today. I mean, GEO is a massive topic. I think we should probably start with, for anyone at home who hasn't heard of it, what is GEO? What does that mean? Why are we talking about it?
It's really simple. It stands for Generative Engine Optimisation, which is similar to SEO, Search Engine Optimization, and it refers to a kind of similar principle, which is, whereas with SEO, that's all about how a particular term or brand appears and ranks within search engine results. When you're talking about GEO, you're thinking about how particular terms or brands appear within the responses that AI models like ChatGPT give to their users.
Nice, yeah, and it's not just GEO as a term, is it? Like there's a whole load of different words that are being used to describe this. Like I've heard GEO, AEO as well. Others.
Yeah, AI, EO, AEO, EIEIO. Yeah, there are a few different terms. It's still somewhat contested. I think we're in a bit of a Wild West period, but the term that most people have settled on is GEO. I think that's the one that we're going to be using in 5 years' time.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the one that is sticking so far, isn't it? In terms of kind of probably the big question for the kind of companies that Wildfire works for, I mean, the thing we're mainly hearing is, why isn't AI recommending my brand, or how do I get my brand recommended by AI? So if someone's searching for, I don't know, the top 10 MarTech companies or the top 10 cybersecurity brands in a particular space, how do you influence that? Can you influence that?
Well, there's no formula for this. There's no kind of recipe that you can use to ensure total success. But there are some general principles, and I think it's important to remember that when an AI model is providing an answer to a query from user, they're looking for consistent signals across all of the information that they have. So that means they're not just looking at earned media, as in the news. They're looking at own media. They're going to look at people's specific websites. To use your example of a cybersecurity brand, if a user asks ChatGPT about a cybersecurity brand, who's the best cybersecurity vendor, whatever they're going to ask.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is then going to do what's known as a fan-out query, where it breaks that question down into several sub-questions, and it's going to do a web search on each of those, which means it's looking at lots of different perspectives. So for that question in particular, it's going to be looking at the media. It's also going to be doing just a general search on cybersecurity brands, find out who they are, where they are, how they are talked about. It's going to look at analysts. It's going to look on social media. So you need to be providing consistency across your various channels. I think that's really important. And when you are discovered on those channels, you need to make sure that the content that you have, whatever you're saying, is clear, useful, specific to the audience you're trying to reach. These are the things to think about, which, as it happens, are things you've always had to think about.
There's a lot of people talking at the moment about like gaming the algorithm and all these sort of hacks for GEO on LinkedIn and those things, which I don't ever necessarily trust or believe in. Is there any point in trying to game the algorithm with this stuff?
No. And I think if anyone's selling you some kind of hack that just works out the box, then they're lying, because they're wrong, because there is no way to just game it. It isn't like the early days of SEO where you could engage in a bit of keyword stuffing or whatever it was in order to game the algorithm. It just doesn't work like that. And for that matter, even if there was a ready formula for boosting your appearance within these AI responses, these things change so much, so frequently, that within 6 months it would be irrelevant anyway.
Yeah.
So no, there is no hack. You just have to be consistent.
Yeah. It does remind me of I'm old enough to have worked through the early stages of SEO and that side of things, and it does just remind me of that like everyone had a workaround or a way that you could sort of game the system, and all that happened was people would come up with a way that worked to game the system, and then Google would just change the rules to stop them doing that almost immediately, and then they'd have to come up with another workaround. And it's the same with like people who try and game the LinkedIn algorithm these days. It does just feel really short-termist and pointless. So yeah, I mean, in terms of earned as well, like obviously we're a PR agency, we've got a lot of clients, a lot of brands that we're working with coming to us and talking to us about GEO. What is the relationship there between GEO and media coverage or sort of earned results in marketing?
There's a very strong relationship. I mean, by some measures, earned media, PR has never been more important. Obviously, I would say that because I work for a PR agency. However, when you look at where platforms like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, where they get their answers from, where they're seeking information, I don't have the figure with me right now, but I think it's something like 60% of it is based on earned media. They're looking at credible news sources.
Yeah, I think I actually have a couple of figures around this. So, I mean, yeah, they change depending on who you're looking at. But so one of the most recent studies was editorial media drives 60+% of LLM responses about major brands. And then Muckrack had a study showing around 85% of AI citations come from earned sources. So is that just about credibility or authority, or what is that?
It's both of those things. I think when a model like ChatGPT is trying to be as useful as it can be to the user, it's designed to be a very, very helpful assistant. So it wants to provide the most credible, trustworthy information it possibly can do. And the way it's going to approach finding that information is in much the same way you would approach finding the most credible, trustworthy information that you have. You're going to look for the most well-established, trustworthy media sources that you can. And that means, tier one, what we would call tier one media, things like national newspapers, very well-known established news brands like BBC News Online, things like that. These are the kind of places which are going to be prioritized because they're reputable, established. It is known that they're credible, that they abide by particular rules. So they're more likely to be cited than, some random blog that gets 5 readers.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a big period where people started obsessing over Forbes for a bit. I don't know if that's still the case. Is that...
Yeah, I mean, people try and do studies into, which platforms, what kind of content gets cited most by AI platforms in their responses. And you can kind of do that by, running through hundreds and hundreds of prompts and then analysing the results. It's not an exact science, so you have to take that kind of thing with a pinch of salt. However, it is clear that there are particular platforms, publishers, which are prioritised more than others. And Forbes has been one of them. So that's not to say Forbes is suddenly the most important news publication on the internet. It isn't. But there are probably some relatively straightforward reasons for why it gets cited more than others. It's a legacy publication. Forbes has been around in some shape or form for decades. And therefore, when these AI models are being trained, Forbes is going to appear a lot more in its training data than something that is newer, that hasn't been around for as long. And it is just considered to be a credible news source. It's a big name.
Yeah. We probably don't want to say everyone needs to go out and get coverage in Forbes, regardless of who your audience is. But if you're a publication like, I don't know, Computer Weekly, they've obviously been around for a very long time. They're very well established, but within their own trade niche. So I assume that's still very important as well.
Absolutely.
Sort of tier one trade publications.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Computer Weekly is a good example of a brand that has been well established. It's been around for a long time. And, certainly from my experience, Computer Weekly will get cited more in AI responses than similar tech publications.
And on that point as well, I've heard a lot from, this might be coming from certain newswire companies themselves. There has been some discussion. I've definitely spoken to clients about it where they've brought it up about, should we be putting things on the wire, which is something we haven't done for a little while now. Is that actually having any sort of impact? Because presumably that's lots of mentions in lower quality sites and then some bigger tier ones. But do newswires have the impact that people are suggesting they do?
So there's a reason why some people are suggesting churning out lots of content via mechanisms like the wire. The idea behind that is that the AI models that people are using, they are updated, their training data is updated sort of every 6 to 9 months. The theory behind that is that as much of the available information on the internet that they can access will be folded into their training data. Therefore, some people have an idea where the more just raw mentions of their brand that exist online, whether it's just in hundreds of reprints of nonsense press releases, the more of those mentions that exist, the more of that they can get into the kind of the training corpus of these AI models, which means, in theory, that they will be mentioned more often going forward. All of that is conjecture, though. I don't buy it. It's not something that anyone working at these AI companies has ever said would work, and I don't think there's really any evidence that it would work. And I think there's just a bigger risk that you just become a bit spammy, and you're just chunting out nonsense for the sake of it, and the internet is flooded with enough information as it is. So that's a very long way of saying no. I don't think there's much in the idea that you need to suddenly start sending out lots of press releases on the wire service.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I did read a thing the other day about the importance of sort of newsrooms on your website, though, but more from the perspective of making sure that your news is being verified on your website as well as sort of out in the ether. So it's not like someone is just talking about your company. What they're saying about your company externally is also backed up and validated and verified on your own website. So I suppose that's kind of you need to make sure that you have your earned set up right, but also your owned channels set up right as well.
These models, when they're trying to provide useful answers, in some ways they're approaching that information sourcing process in the same way a sensible person would, which would be to double check things. And so you find someone saying this thing about a brand, but then perhaps you want to look on the brand's website to make sure, is that actually true? So you want to be able to provide that authority and credibility. And, if an AI model is trying to find something out about your brand, the first place it's going to look is going to be your website. It's just going to do a straightforward web search for you and crawl your website and see what it can find out. So owned content is really important, whether that's a newsroom or a blog or a resources hub. That's all really important. And it's also important to make sure that your website is actually accessible by AI models.
Yeah. So there was one of the things I wanted to talk about today was how you sort of change content, or if you should even change your content to make it more visible to AI. I mean, is there anything you can tell us about that? There's been some discussion of like the structure of content, including certain things. I don't know, what sort of thing would you recommend in terms of whether it's on-site content or articles or anything else?
I think there are 2 points there. The first one, accessibility, is kind of a technical point, but when an AI model is looking at your website, it isn't looking at the same thing you or I look at. It's parsing the text, sort of the raw HTML. So, for example, if your website is full of banner ads or sort of Google ads and things like that, if there's lots and lots of HTML stuff up front before you actually get to any useful content, it's going to be harder for an AI model to actually reference you, because it's going to look on your website, it's going to read the first 500 lines, not find anything useful, and it's going to move on. So that's a point to bear in mind. In terms of the second thing I think you're asking about, which is how to appear useful to AI models, I think format, structure, these things do matter. But again, you just want to prioritize clarity and usefulness to a particular audience, and so that lends itself to FAQs, comparisons between two opposing concepts, answering clear questions. It's that kind of structured content that has a really, really clear purpose, and usually a clear call to action at the end as well. That's the sort of thing you want to prioritize.
Yeah, it does make me laugh that so many people, like, everyone's losing their mind over GEO. They're all talking about it on LinkedIn. Everyone's got all these sort of, little tips and tricks. But the more I hear about it, the more I'm like, this is just a combination of good SEO practice and good PR and copywriting. Like, again, I remember doing SEO back in the day that you were always told, don't have your website absolutely stuffed full of code, that makes it really, really complex for Google's crawlers to go through. It sounds like it's very much the same thing, and write in clear, concise ways, use headings, break up text, answer the sort of questions that people are searching in Google for.
As I say, there are core principles of just communicating information effectively, which don't change. And it's the same now that there's AI models acting as kind of intermediaries for that information. You still want to be clear and useful. Otherwise, you're not going to feature.
Yeah, and I've even seen the same thing with press releases. Like, there was a talk recently about, like, if you want to make sure that your press releases are found by AI, make sure that you have the whole story in the opening paragraph. And I'm like, what, like a press release? Like,
who, what, when, where, why, perhaps.
Like good news writing. Yeah, it does just, it seems like everyone's sort of treating this as though it's this totally new thing, and I'm just there going, good, clear, concise writing. Like, it's almost like in the same way that journalists were always super busy and you needed to get their attention quickly. It's like, the AI bots are super busy and you need to get their attention. Like, I honestly don't think it's changing as much as people possibly think. One change that might be happening, though, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this, in terms of the social media side of things, there was a big period where everyone went crazy for Reddit. Like, I think Reddit was one of the most cited things in ChatGPT in particular, or just in AI searches. So I wanted to ask about Reddit, but also LinkedIn as well. Like, what impact is either LinkedIn posts or LinkedIn articles having, and do B2B brands and tech brands need to go out and start a Reddit strategy now in order to get a result in AI?
I think it would be hilarious to have a Reddit strategy, but no, I don't think that's the case. The Reddit thing is, for a long time, AI models did prioritize content from Reddit for a lot of the kind of requests they were getting from users. And that is just because Reddit is this enormous resource of human-led, quite niche content that often takes the form of question and answers. So it's just a great place to find specific information, because there are subreddits on every possible topic you can imagine. Lots of people go to Reddit for the same reason. It's just handy to find things out that you need to know. But that's changed now, because I think it was last year or the year before that Reddit got a bit fed up with AI companies just scraping their website without permission. So they've now got controls in place, which means that unless these AI companies have signed some kind of licensing agreement with Reddit, you can't the AI can't get live access to Reddit pages. So it doesn't rank quite as highly as it used to, although I think they have got agreements with both Google and OpenAI. So that means ChatGPT and Gemini, you're more likely to get Reddit results on there. LinkedIn is different. It's similar in the respect that they also are quite strict about allowing AI models to just roam freely, because LinkedIn's business model is that it's a gated thing. You have to have an account. It's a peer-to-peer network. They can't just give that away and allow AI models to take advantage of all the posts that exist on there, and they can't make it all public. That would be mad. So LinkedIn posts aren't all public. AI can surface sort of the first couple of lines of most LinkedIn posts, but it can't read all of them, and it doesn't work very well with them. And I'm pretty sure LinkedIn has rate limiters for how much and how quickly an AI model can actually extract that information from their platform. Right. The one exception to that is LinkedIn articles. They're public. They can be indexed. They're readily accessible. So if a brand was thinking about, well, what does AI mean for how we approach LinkedIn? I would say you need to think about your kind of content strategy when it comes to LinkedIn. You need to make use of the articles feature if appearing in AI is one of your goals.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And one other thing that I wanted to ask about, as well as sort of social media, I mean, we touched upon press releases, we touched upon the newswire. Backlinks was the other thing that, I think everyone's got sort of tales of working in PR and having a client or your boss sort of drop you an email saying, oh, this bit of coverage was fantastic, doesn't actually link back to our website. We want that for SEO. I think I sort of know the answer to this one, but backlinks have changed, haven't they, in terms of importance?
In the context of AI, yes. I mean, for GEO, backlinks aren't hugely important, but that doesn't mean we should forget about them, because they're still important for SEO and they're still important for real life human beings, and we forget them at our peril.
Not real life human beings.
I know.
It's not what we're here to do in PR.
So,
get attention and awareness with real life people.
Indeed.
Now, obviously, we've spoken about a lot today. I think really to round everything off, if there was one piece of advice that you could give to in-house comms, PR people working in tech or in B2B, who are looking to change their strategy or rethink things in the age of geo and AI recommendations, what is the one piece of advice you'd give them?
I mean, the one piece of advice is don't panic. I think there's a real risk of throwing the baby out with the bathwater on this, swinging wildly in a new direction and unnecessarily ripping up and changing everything that you were doing before in response to the shiny new thing. And I don't think there's any need to do that. The principles of communication remain the same. You want to be clear, you want to be consistent, you want to be specific and useful to your audience that you're trying to reach. And that means, thinking about the format of your content, making sure that you've got a good balance of owned, earned social media, providing consistent signals to not just your audience, but to the AI models that might be sitting between you and that audience now. It's not something that you shouldn't be thinking about, but it's not something that you need to lose sleep over. And if you are losing sleep over it, you can just come to talk to us about it.
Fantastic. Right, well, thank you for your time today, Luke. Just to let everyone know, our new guide to GEO is available on the Wildfire website, and we'll include a link below. So thanks so much.
Cheers.